So I came into the Yokai Watch anime without knowing a thing about Yokai Watch before. I saw its ads while it was airing on Disney XD originally when I was younger, but it freaking repulsed me and I never saw a single episode. I instinctively wanted to stay away from this shit as much as possible for whatever reason that I can't name. If you don't know what Yokai Watch is, it was a game that popped off heavy in Japan in 2013, and then it got its own anime. That's all you gotta know for this review. I watched 31 episodes of it, and it's review time. Since this is a scathingly negative review, I wanted to list off my positives for Yokai Watch first. The animation, style, and music are all good components of this show, although the animation doesn't stand out much. I saw 0 animation errors though, which is always a plus. But once I heard the intro Garo Garo Po, I wanted to dig out my ears. I instantly hated the entire show when I heard it from then on out, although the intro has grown on me, and now I like it. We're gonna talk about the fucking fan song level 2nd intro though. The idea of this anime is interesting. Creatures that you can't see that cause life's hardships is a great and unique idea for an anime or game. Honestly, one of the more unique entries in this monster catcher genre. It's far different from Pokemon or Digimon, and the only similarities that this anime shares with those is that it's of the same genre. The designs of the characters are all unique and memorable, like Ruffruff's in particular for me, and Robonyan, and even Nate, who's supposed to be an incredibly average guy. The only one that sucks is Katie's, but that's because she's the female version of Nate in the game, so of course she just looks like his sister. Feels weird as hell though, since she's Nate's love interest. That's everything positive I have to say about Yokai Watch, which is sad. On to the things that make this show suck. Nobody stands out except, oddly enough, Nate. He's such a normal, selfish kid that those traits of his make him stand out.
You're not getting away from me! You have to stop her before she turns this whole town into a hotbed of exposed secrets and uncovered truths.
Who cares about the whole town?
What?
He'd just sit on his ass all day and hang out with his friends if it weren't for the Yokai Watch. And with the Yokai Watch, he still does that all the time. He doesn't care about helping people or stopping really bad yokai like Ruffruff, who's the cause of 98% of the world's troublemakers.
Ruffruff is responsible for 98% of the troublemakers worldwide.
Because again, he's a normal, selfish kid. He's also void of any goals in life. To compare two anime I've seen of the same genre, Ash's goal in Pokemon is to be the greatest Pokemon trainer in the world, and the kids in Digimon's goal is to save the digital world. But in Yokai Watch, what does Nate want to do? Nothing. His pseudo goal in life is get Katie to be his girlfriend, but that's such a small, minuscule goal that it doesn't matter. This completely normal background level character protagonist, of course, negatively impacts the plot, but that's why I like him. He's unique because he sucks, and he sucks in a very specific, odd way. By all means, he shouldn't be the protagonist or face of an anime, but he is. About other characters though, they got nothing. Whisper's only trait is that he lies about how knowledgeable he is, and Jabonyan is lazy and complaining. Both of them suck, but they're still main characters. And please don't ask me to explain what the side characters are like. Eddie, I fucking forgot what this guy looked like while I was writing this. What this fat guy? Even if they had stereotypical personalities for what they looked like Eddie being a major nerd or the fat guy being stupid, that would have been more than whatever they gave them. Katie also sucks. She's just there so that Nick can say no whenever a yokai screws up one of their conversations.
Katie.
This is easily one of the worst characters I've ever seen in a show, which is why I made that animation. It's very satisfying to watch. If you don't know who this character is, then it's Komo-san, a fan favorite character in the Yokai Watch community. But he shouldn't be because he freaking sucks. He just appeals to people who are susceptible to cute things. But why does he suck? Well, basically he gets his own segments either at the start or end of a Yokai Watch episode. They're pretty much all about him being a country bumpkin and not understanding basic things that we do. So it's an attempt at a slice of life anime segment for Yokai Watch, which could have been interesting due to what Komo-san is, but it fails because Komo-san is so freaking annoying. As the show's comedy relief character, he has to have a catchphrase, which is, "Oh my swirls!" And as a country person, he has to make country sounding similes. It's actually worse in the Japanese version, I'd say, because he always says Mungay and Zurat the end of every sentence, which in any anime I find super annoying, especially since he's the main character of his own segments. It's honestly unbearable to watch. The English version of Komo-san is actually better to watch for this reason. Both of these things would actually be fine in moderation, but the problem is that he does this relentlessly every episode. I'll show you a compilation of him doing this from a single one of his 5-minute segments.
Love struck me like a bag full of jackhammers. Not even for a leprechaun's hat I won't. I ain't brave like you. Oh, my swirls. Tarnation. I'm starting to feel like a banjo with you picking on me like this. I feel like I'm about to whip. Just open the door and look inside. Oh, my swirls. Oh, my swirls. My head is swirling like a mosquito on a merry-go-round, and my heart is pounding like a jackhammer. I'm like a babe in the woods. I'll protect her like a pit bull at a garden party. Not on my watch, y'all! Oh, my swirls!
Crazy, right? Imagine that after or before a Yokai Watch episode and you get the most annoying, stupidest character that has ever existed. Each Komo-san segment is always dry dribble and you have to actually search and look for a joke and really think about it for a long time before you could possibly find one, because it's really just Komo-san being cute and that appeals to people somehow for some reason. Thankfully, there isn't a plot loop in most of these Komo-san segments, but that can't be said about the usual Yokai Watch episodes. In a usual Yokai Watch episode, you'll come to realize pretty quickly that each one follows a very specific loop. Always three odd things happen. Then Nate says there must be a yokai around here.
There must be a yokai behind this.
Whisper doubts this, and seconds later Nate finds the yokai. Nate will ask Whisper what the yokai is, and Whisper will pretend that he knows.
As I recall, his name is,
But instead he'll just look up on his yokai tablet and tell him what the yokai is and what it does, and what phenomenon, I can't say that word, or special thing it's responsible for if it causes one.
Rough Raff is responsible for 98% of the troublemakers worldwide.
From there, Nate will either talk to the yokai to get it to go away, or he'll summon another yokai to face it, and usually talk to it still. Or a lame comparison in abilities. If it's Jibanyan, then Jibanyan will always say that he's tired and he won't be any help to the situation every time. After they succeed in getting the yokai to stop being annoying or inconveniencing people, it'll give its medal to Nate so that he can summon them anytime he needs their help. Then the episode ends. If you're thinking, wow, that's oddly specific, then yeah, you're right. None of these things change except what yokai they have to deal with that day. Not even the jokes. I'm not good at predicting things, but by episode 10 I could have easily guessed what Nate was gonna say, and I realized that Jibanyan would be a useless addition to Nate's arsenal of yokai before then. With this very easy to see loop, it completely ruins every episode. It makes it feel like a slog to get through, since each one is basically the same thing. In comparison, a show that does a similar thing, Phineas and Ferb, does it well by changing it up enough and keeping the jokes, focus, and interactions different in each episode, although each one contains exact story beats and elements from previous episodes. But in this show, it's just pure laziness and an inability to come up with new source material for episodes, which obviously creates a bad series, even if it's an episodic one. But let's talk about why Nate is doing any of this or what he is accomplishing. Absolutely nothing. As I said earlier, to the show's detriment, Nate doesn't go out of his way to stop detrimental yokai because he doesn't care about that. He only goes out of his way to stop yokai if he is being inconvenienced or if he is being annoyed by them. And even when he stops them, the yokai aren't captured in his watch. They just go off and do whatever they want after Nate talks to them and asks them politely to stop. All this means is that Nate isn't going to be annoyed by them in the future, effectively making this whole show about removing minor annoyances in Nate's life. Sounds pretty freaking lame to me. Rough Raff will still be the cause of 98% of troublemakers worldwide being troublemakers, and Chatterley will still cause most politicians to overpromise on things they can't follow up on. And Fidget will still make people need to piss. Nate's not changing crap, and the entire loop is pointless.
I need to think of something really disturbing.
Espy is a about to blow a gasket!
What could Nate possibly be thinking about?
The idea of the show sounds amazing and unique. That Nate's the only one who can stop it sounds awesome, right? Well, it's all about the execution, and it's failed the show hard. It does this by having a ton of lame-ass yokai and only a few cool ones. There's one that heats up pools, there's one that makes you sweat, there's a hot one that just makes you stay up at night. There's one that exists to get hit by fucking cars. Like, do you see what I'm saying? The one that gets hit by cars is the main mascot for Yokai Watch. For a game, this could be fine because although they're really lame and what they do is lame, you fight them in a battle afterwards, which is probably cool. But for an anime, I just couldn't care less. If each yokai did something cool, then I'd have no issue with this. Or hey, what about the yokai that are actually cool and interesting? Kaibi was the only one that I saw in the 31 episodes that I watched that was actually interesting. He can turn into a human, which has never been seen before previously. He can instantly make it rain, and since he's a powerful yokai, humans can naturally see him. But this was ruined by the fact that in his own segment, he was just trying to get the love of Katie since he got power by getting girls to love him. This unsurprisingly turned into a predictable dribble about Kaibi attempting to get Katie to love him, but he fails every time. Even cool shit they screw up on in this show, which is absurd, because this guy is basically like a demigod compared to every other yokai shown in this show. I believe that each yokai should have been an interesting level of power for the sake of this anime being interesting, rather than them causing little stupid issues around the world, or really stupid specific issues like that inside out umbrella that causes umbrellas to go inside out, or that stupid leaves one that makes you dance. Rules in any piece of media where odd elements are present are established early on or throughout a series. For example, shows in the same genre, Digimon does this by establishing the difference between the digital world and physical world clearly, and under no circumstances does Digimon come into the physical world inexplicably for a gag. And this rule is only bypassed when Vamdemon creates a portal into the real world. Or in Pokemon, how in that series Pokemon are established to be the animals of that world, and that unless they're really special, they can only say their names. You wouldn't ever see an actual dog in Pokemon or hear something like Squirtle speak normal English, because that would break the rules of their world and it would break immersion. Plus, only in the show, this rule is broken for Meowth in Pokemon, and that's kept consistent. Well, how about Yokai Watch? In Yokai Watch, the rules are established early on. Yokai can't be perceived naturally unless they're special like Menjima and Kyuubi, and then Nate and only Nate with his Yokai Watch light can uncover yokai and see them, if the yokai is within the focus of his watch light. Then once Nate uncovers them, only Nate can see them from then on. For the most part, this rule stays consistent, except in certain places where they decide the rule is valid and they decide it's not. Komo-san's segments is where this happens mostly. One episode they just randomly have a fucking leaf that they put on their head that makes them appear as humans.
These yokai leaves make humans think we're one of them. To them, we'll look like humans.
Before this, they mess with their environment in public places and don't alert suspicion from people, since people would just see floating objects, which is also stupid, but I can let this slide. What really made me angry was when Komo-san revealed his true form to a girl that he liked. He also saw this girl when she was a child. Creepy, but more importantly, she saw his yokai form without a yokai watch or anything, when previously it was shown that Nate had to use a yokai watch to make Komo-san visible. And to remind you, the yokai watch only makes yokais visible to Nate. This blatant bending the rules for a stupid emotional moment, even in this presumably non-canon environment, pissed me off greatly, because Nate had to uncover him in the first place to even see him, and normally in the city without the leaf on his head, people couldn't see him. And this was just for a little romantic emotional moment. Fucking stupid, I know. The rules broken further in Komo-san's next segment, where him and Whisper are perfectly perceivable to humans without the need of a yokai leaf or watch, which further breaks the rules of this world. You can't just choose when the fundamental rules of your media are valid and when they aren't, just for a scene, gag, or whatever the fuck, because it totally breaks any immersion that the person could have had. Even if the jokes are funny, it's sacrificing the legs your media stands on for the sake of comedy, which isn't worth it and just, again, breaks immersion. Outside of Komo-san's segment, the rule occasionally bends slightly, like with the nosers and how their speaking could be heard by normal people, when normally yokai cannot be heard by people. Literally all they had to do to fix this and make it make sense was say that they cause doubt in people's mind when they're nearby, but no, they literally had to talk to people, which I think wasn't ever done again. Again, it's a bend because yokai normally cannot be perceived at all in any way without a yokai watch. Like when Nate's talking to Jibanyan in his room, for example, only Nate and other yokai would be able to hear Jibanyan and nobody else in the house would. It sort of adds another layer of confusion too. Wouldn't his parents have seen something floating in the house like Jibanyan's chakra bars that he always keeps stashed around him? Or do yokai have an unexplained aura around them that hides everything that they touch? Small confusing things like this also add to this show's weird Bendy Rules set. But it's safe to assume that if a yokai is holding a physical object, then that also becomes invisible, just like the yokai himself, or themselves I mean, to normal humans. Just my headcanon.
You want to figure out how to make me stop, am I right?
Stop reading my mind!
Not much in there! Well, all you think about is choco bars, am I right? I'm insulted!
It's safe to say that this show is incredibly predictable, and for comedy, that's one of the worst things it could be. If I can guess a joke before you tell it, I won't laugh because it'll feel like I've already heard it. But Yokai Watch's problem is that pretty much everything is predictable due to repetition. Jokes and segments are usually reused too often. The first example of this being the joke where Mangy goes to jail for no reason. This joke was funny at first, but it gets reused every time Nate summons him. Basically in this show, if there's a joke, then you can bet that they reuse it at least 3 times, even if the joke isn't that funny. Most of the jokes in this show aren't even funny, so even if they didn't reuse jokes every 5 seconds, the humor would still suck. And it usually makes me angry too, because I can totally see how in some situations things could be made funny, but they decide to stick to surface level unfunny jokes or repetition. I can't imagine what one of the Yokai Watch movies would have been like. This horrendous repetition and style of humor may be copying the game, but I don't know. I'm sure the game's good if they made a damn anime for it. I might buy it and make a review for it in a separate video. With how this world's rules are established and set up, with how yokai are invisible to normal people, you may think that Nate's life really would change once he got to watch what's let him interact with yokai. But no, his life stays just about the same. The acquisition of the watch doesn't change anything about his character or people around him. All that changes is that now he can see yokai if he wants to. It's not like he can just see them everywhere. That would actually change a lot, I'd say. But just the ability to choose if you want to see yokai or not should at least change his relationships with other people, since they think that he's crazy because he talks to nothing all the time, which could have so easily been used for a lot of gags, like a point of view switch, but they never do. Even though he talks to the yokai and looks at them and reacts to them physically all the time in public places, just small comments from people, preferably his friends, would add on to this idea that Nate's life truly has changed. Even though the show is semi-episodic, I would have enjoyed it if Nate got closer to more yokai more than actual humans, because he can see them and humans don't understand what he's seeing. That would have actually changed who he was, but no, he remains an average kid. I just assume that there's a yokai around Nate at all times that makes other people not being able to realize obvious shit. Another thing that makes no sense is that some yokai, as in singular yokai, are the cause of worldwide phenomenon, and there aren't like multiple versions of them, it's just a single one. Like Rough Raft, this one guy is the cause of 98% of bad people being bad, just for one example. If the story's focus was just in Japan or wherever Nate lives, then I would be totally fine with this, because then it'll be a more small scale thing and it'll be more understandable how one yokai could do all sorts of stuff like that. In the end, this show fucking sucks. It's repetitive, unfunny, and it squanders a potentially great idea by taking in and adding uninteresting elements. Even though this came out way after animes in the same genre, I could still see how people thought this could be the next big thing. But after watching this anime, I fully understand all of the hate that Yokai Watch gets. Although it got major hate, only appeals to people outside of their target demographic in the West, and completely failed hard, I still support the series. I just want to see something good of Yokai Watch after watching this train wreck, so keep going Yokai Watch. I am now a fan of Yokai Watch. This is my new guilty pleasure. I just hope that the next Yokai Watch thing doesn't go through the same horrendous shit that this show went through. The next few videos on the channel will also be about Yokai Watch, more specifically the manga and the game, because the manga's pretty good so far. I've been reading it. I've been like, oh, maybe the manga's good, and yeah, it is. It actually takes the idea and works with it pretty well. The 3DS game, I'm not too sure. That's where everything started. I assume that's good, but I'm not sure. I'll have to play it myself because I bought it. It's coming Sunday. Anyway, hopefully this video will be out before, like, I don't know, Wednesday next week. Anyway, bye.